Well, hello there, y'all. With a game like Runescape that has millions of registered users, there have been many shady characters and criminals associated with the game throughout the years. Today, we're not going to be talking about criminal masterminds or elaborate plots or anything like that. This means no mod Jed, which is good because that means I don't have to look at his extremely punchable face on my editing timeline for an extended period. We're going to be talking about the criminals of RuneScape that are not the sharpest crayons in the box, which is great because this means they got caught quickly. Unfortunately for one victim, not quick enough. We'll also be sticking to crimes that translated outside of RuneScape and originated because of RuneScape, so this won't include in-game scams or anything like that. Oh yeah, also if you enjoy RuneScape documentaries, commentaries over old stuff concerning RuneScape, sometimes outside of that, be sure to subscribe and hit all the buttons down below. With that said, I'm the RuneScape historian. Let's get into the stories.
Really relating.
Real-world trading in RuneScape is nothing new, but this situation was a bit unique and came to a drastic conclusion. First, you had three people involved. 19-year-old Hamza Bajwa, who was interested in buying 4.7 billion RuneScape gold for a grand total of $3,300. You also had Jonathan Dockler, who was the one selling 4.7 billion RuneScape gold. You also had David Amani, who was there to act as a middleman. Jonathan Dockler couldn't be present IRL for the trade, and as a result, David Amani would have to meet Hamza Bajwa for the trade to go down. He would make sure everything was good. He would make sure that it was really 3,300 real US dollars. And then at that point, he would prompt Jonathan Dockler to be like, yeah, go ahead and trade Hamza's character the 4.7 billion as everything looks good here. Unfortunately, it didn't go down that smoothly. And you might be wondering, why are they meeting IRL? This is goofy. Well, it's due to Hamza Bajwa urging for them to meet IRL or else the deal was off. So on July 11th, 2012, they would meet at a university to do the deal. David Amani would see Hamza Bajwa in the school library and would begin approaching him. As he approached, he would see suspicious activities such as Hamza Bajwa moving money in between these two envelopes, and the money, when he caught a glimpse of it, at least some of it, looked fake. And as he's observing this, he's been on the phone with Jonathan Dockler the whole time, and he quietly mentions to him, hey, some of this money looks fake. I don't feel good about this deal. I don't think we should go through with it. Upon hearing this, Hamza Bajwa would nervously say, I gotta go, abruptly, and would leave the university. Before leaving, though, Hamza Bajwa would mutter out, let's just meet tomorrow night so I can get everything together properly this time. David Amani was not convinced, and he relayed this to Jonathan Dockler and again said, I don't think we should go through with this. Some of the money looked fake. This is sketchy. Let's not go through with this. But Jonathan Dockler, either needing or wanting the money very badly, decided to proceed with it and was like, no. And he convinced David Amani to actually meet Hamza Bajwa the following night. The following night, as David Amani is getting ready to go meet Hamza Bajwa for this deal at the university again, he decides to come prepared. He wants to bring a real $100 bill for comparison purposes. He then grabs his belongings and heads to the university. This time they were to meet in a classroom on the university campus, and keep in mind this is at night this time too, so there's far less people around, and it's not something like a library where kids are going to be studying well into the night. Upon meeting Bajwa in this university classroom, the deal would commence. Bajwa would present a large envelope of money, to which Amani would almost instantly notice that it was indeed fake after comparing it to his $100 bill. Almost instantaneously, Bajwa would pull out a handgun and point it directly at Amani, demanding that the deal go through. Amani, now on the phone with Jonathan, nervously urged the deal to go through as fast as he could. He couldn't believe he was about to be shot over RuneScape and understandably feared for his life in this moment. He would tell John to hurry up, let's go man, multiple times while having the gun pointed against his head. Jonathan transferred the coins, and luckily Bajwa left Amani alone in the classroom after fleeing. Amani would be unharmed physically. Shortly afterwards, this incident would be reported to the local police. Upon talking with Jonathan and Amani and reviewing surveillance video from the university, cops would find and arrest Bajwa in Acton, Massachusetts on July 24th. They would also find the gun, which turned out to be a BB gun that happened to look realistic. Bajwa would be slapped with second-degree robbery and grand larceny, and could have faced an upwards of 15 years in jail. Due to unrelated reasons, Jonathan would later quit RuneScape, choosing to only buy and resell the gold for school books. He would also add in that in the rough and tumble world of RuneScape, such a brazen crime didn't shock him. Jesus Christ, dude, your friend almost got shot. The story doesn't end here though, as weeks later, while out on bail, Bajwa would fall for an undercover operation where 48th Precinct Officer Sean O'Donnell posed as a gamer selling RuneScape gold. Bajwa would try the exact same stunt he pulled on Amani on the undercover officer. Bajwa would plead guilty to grand larceny and attempted robbery. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail, along with 3,000 hours of community service, as well as 5 years of probation upon his release. He would also be required to pay back the $3,300 to the victims for the gold he stole. God dang, be careful out there, guys. This next story is short and bitter. This story involves 3 individuals who are unnamed due to their age at the time of the incident. The year is 2007, and a 13-year-old has recently come into a bit of wealth on RuneScape. They have just picked up a mask and amulet, as described by the article. While it is not specified on what the mask and amulet are due to the information on these cases being written by non-RuneScape players, it can be assumed that this is a Halloween mask and potentially an amulet of fury, combined worth well over 10 million GP in 2007. This stroke of luck would spark jealousy with 2 other similar-aged boys. They would physically beat the first boy and threaten him to drop the mask and amulet at knife point. Fearing for his life, the first boy would promptly drop the mask and amulet where it was picked up in-game by one of the 2 boys. 2 boys were convicted of stealing the amulet and mask, with the highest court in the Netherlands upholding a ruling stating that it is illegal to steal virtual items. One of the boys lost an appeal and had to perform 144 hours of community service, while the punishment for the other boy is unknown. This last story is the most disturbing one on the list and potentially the most disturbing RuneScape-related story I've ever researched. It involves children and a type of assault where talking about it would get me potentially demonetized. So, understandably, if you don't want to hear about that, you can leave now. The story starts in 2010 where a 54-year-old John Phillips would meet a 13-year-old unnamed female. We'll just call her Kate for simplicity purposes. Also, as a side note, do you guys remember when RS Glory and Gold Tony, may he rest in peace, was accused of being a pedo by Keemstar? Well, it's because John Phillips actually looks very similar to Tony, only John Phillips is the actual piece of crap human being, not Tony. Phillips would then marry Kate inside the RuneScape game. It's unclear if this was some sort of sick justification in his own head for the events that followed. Phillips would later get her address and attempt to send Kate a cell phone. Side note, this was in 2010 where not every young person had access to a cell phone. Kate was also not allowed to have a cell phone per her mother's rules. This attempt would fail for unknown reasons, potentially due to misdelivered or lost mail. John Phillips would then take it upon himself to deliver this phone in person to ensure the phone got to Kate. John would then get in his van, because of course it's a freaking van, and drove to Detroit where Kate lived, taking advantage of the fact that Kate's mother was working 2, sometimes 3 jobs and was barely home to monitor her daughter's actions. John would meet Kate at a motel to give her the cell phone, where John would assault Kate in the motel room once, then again inside his van, and even a final time in her own home. He would then leave and make the trek back home, where the 2 would resume texting and playing RuneScape together. After a short, unspecified time, Kate's mother saw Kate with the cell phone texting someone. This was odd to her, as Kate was not even allowed to have a phone, let alone text. She would take this cell phone and start digging through the text messages to John. Police were immediately called and an investigation was started. John Phillips was eventually caught and arrested after evading police. He faced up to 11 charges, including assault, using a computer with intent of committing a crime, and accosting a child for immoral purposes, charges that would see him facing up to 20 years of jail time.
Authorities are calling a suspected child predator one of the worst people they've ever seen. The 54-year-old Fitchburg man is accused of crossing several state lines to sexually assault a 13-year-old girl. And police say the way the man met and pursued the teen should serve as a warning to parents.
This is just despicable.
A reference to John Phillips of Fitchburg. He allegedly met the 13-year-old Detroit girl while they played this video game online. It's called RuneScape. While role-playing in the game, the 2 entered a cyber marriage. But investigators say Phillips maneuvered for real-life contact.
But this guy actually came from Massachusetts to the state of Michigan and had sexual contact with a 13-year-old girl on 3 occasions.
The sex allegedly happened in Phillips' van, at this motel, and even in the girl's own home. He bought her presents, including her own cell phone, so they could secretly text.
The things that this guy said to this young lady are just unspeakable.
The secret unraveled when her mom caught her using the cell phone at 2 in the morning.
She seen her throw her hand, so she walked over and seen that there was a cell phone there.
Police raided Phillips' Fitchburg home, but arrested him in upstate New York, where he was visiting his father. Phillips is now in jail. That 13-year-old girl is in counseling. Police give the girl credit for her attention to detail, which they say greatly helped their investigation. Officials warn parents to keep an eye on what their children are doing on the internet.
And by the way, the comments on this news clip are seriously disgusting, man. I'll leave a link in my description to it under the credits. I'm not going to name and shame, even though I probably should, but goddamn, people are truly messed up. Okay, that's going to do it for me, guys. If you enjoyed this video and want to see similar content or potentially want me to cover non-RuneScape related crimes, let me know in the comments. This is the RuneScape Historian, checking out.